Sorry for a couple of minutes delay in starting technology, so apologies for that. But look, just firstly, can you please put your hands up if you can hear me okay? Let's see. Okay, great. Okay, hands going up there, brilliant. And can you all see me and you can see the slides? Just put your hands up again if you can, just to make sure you can see me and the slides. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Everyone's hands going up there. So look, people generally make the mistake of assuming that others interact and think the same way that they do. And many of us grow up believing the golden rule, treating others the way you would like to be treated. But instead, think of it this way, okay? We encourage another practical rule to live by. And this is what Dr. Tony Alessandra calls the platinum rule: to treat others the way that they want to be treated, not the way that you want to be treated, but the way they want to be treated. And this is what we're going to be covering in today's webinar. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Simon Marshall, and I'm your local business coach and business growth specialist. So I've worked in the city for about 30 years at a number of financial institutions, consultants and advisors, and I now focus my time on helping local business owners make their business more successful and accomplish what they wish to achieve. Okay, no matter what that need may be, I believe that we can all achieve a rewarding lifestyle and realize our business goals. Okay, so let's move on then in terms of what we're covering today. So there we go. Right, okay. So they say that self-awareness is the first step to improvement. So it makes perfect sense to improve your skills by first understanding your communication style. If you can't communicate effectively, then your business won't flourish. It's as simple as that. Okay, so understanding your own behaviors and how they affect those you work with, your family, even strangers, is a very powerful thing. Okay, so if you take it to the next step and begin communicating with others, fully aware of those behaviors and tendencies, you will naturally become a better leader and most likely improve business as you do so. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is something called the DISC profiling system, okay? And it's one of the ways that we can assess communication styles. So understanding your own DISC style and learning how to adapt the way you communicate to other DISC types can have a huge impact on your relationships with your team, your customers, your suppliers, all the people that you interact with. So let me tell you first of all a little bit about DISC profiling. So DISC profiling it's an extremely powerful tool. Okay, and look, a lot of what we're going to be covering today is how you can apply it to business, but also we're going to focus a bit on sales as well towards the end, how you can apply it to sales. But it can be used in many different areas in your business. Okay, and as I say here, it's very helpful in relationship and team building. Okay, now look, there are other psychometric profiling tools. You may have heard of them, like Myers-Briggs, but DISC is slightly different. Okay, and knowledge of this model can be used as a people reading skill. Okay, so it's not just about you, it's about how you read other people as well. And it was invented by Dr. William M. Marston. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about him first of all. He's an interesting character. So he was an American psychologist. Okay, and along with his wife Elizabeth, he invented an early prototype of the lie detector. Okay, and he was also known as a self-help author and a comic book writer. And in fact, he actually created the character Wonder Woman. Okay, so that's a little bit about him. So disc profiling. So there's 4 behavioural styles in disc profiling, and I'm going to cover those in a bit, and we're going to delve down in a bit more detail in terms of what those profiles are. And as we go through this, start thinking about where you think you fit in with these disc profiling styles. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you're one style or the other. Yeah. There's a balance between all of these. And also there's no rights or wrongs in terms of what profile you actually are, or but actually I keep calling it profile, but it's a behavioural style. Yeah. But knowing where we are and what our preferred behavioural styles are can have a significant impact over the decisions we make, the way in which we perceive others, how others perceive us, okay, and loads of other things in life and in business as well. So look, without the knowledge of DISC, you only know the options on how to shape your communication. But you can't make an informed estimate of the shape of the recipient's preferences. Because as I mentioned earlier, everyone is different. Yeah. So adapting to another's behavioural preference is not always easy. Adaptability is based on 2 elements: flexibility and aptitude to adjust your approach or strategy based on the particular needs of the situation or relationship at any particular time. Okay, so 2 things there. Flexibility. So flexibility is your willingness, and aptitude is your capability. Okay, so adaptability is something that you must be cognitive about. Okay, you choose to apply to yourself, to your patterns, to your attitude, to your habits. You don't expect it from others. So adaptability does not mean a limitation of the person's style. It doesn't mean, so it does mean adjusting your openness, directness, your pace, and your priority in the direction of the other person's preference, while maintaining your own identity. Okay, because you are who you are, but it's understanding who you are and what your strengths are, what you're good at, but also understanding the person that you're speaking to, so you can use your strengths and your understanding of yourself to get the best results. So with DISC, you're more able to see the spaces and can therefore shape your communication to make the correct match more easily. Okay, so I mentioned about adaptability. Adaptability is important to all successful relationships. Yeah, adaptability is a choice. You can choose to be adaptable with one person and not adaptable with others. You can choose to be quite adaptable with one person. You might choose to be adaptable with that one person today and less adaptable with that same individual tomorrow. So adaptability is dependent on recognizing others' personal behavioral style. Okay, so to quickly determine someone's style, there's 2 questions to ask. And we're going to look at this in a bit more detail, but let me share those 2 questions with you first of all. Okay. Okay, and then based on the answers, then that will give you an idea. So the first one, are they direct or indirect? Okay, so are they direct or indirect in their communication style? And are they guarded or open in their communication style? So just keep that in mind for a bit, and we're going to delve into that in a bit more detail when we look more at the DISC behavior styles. So the DISC assessment and report makes it easy to identify and understand our own style. Okay, to recognize others and to cognitively adapt to different styles and develop a process to communicate more effectively with others. Okay, So when you go through a full process of actually, it doesn't take long to complete online one of these DISC profiling systems, ask you a whole lot of weird questions, and you think, why is it asking me that? Okay, and then once you go through it, it gives you something like a 60, 70 page report, okay, on your behavioural styles. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But in addition to building personal effectiveness in relationships and communication, companies use DISC with their teams, okay, to help them create competitive advantage, such as to increase commitment and cooperation, build effective teams, resolve and prevent conflict, okay, gain endorsement and credibility and rapport, how you can know or understand others, your interpersonal skills, communications, your preferences, your behavioural strengths, potential areas of improvement, okay, and also to build a common language, but also to increase sales as well. Because as I said earlier, if you can understand the style of the behavioural style, the preferred behavioural style of the person that you're speaking to, you can adjust your style in line with them, whether it's a team member, whether it's a potential customer, whether it's a supplier that you're negotiating with. So let me just share with you what DISC is. Yeah, so DISC is the leading personal assessment tool used by more than 1 million people each year to improve work productivity, teamwork, and communication. Okay, so as a trained DISC assessment administrator, I can personally tell you that there is real power in understanding your communication style, as well as those of your the people around you. Okay, now, as it says on the slide here, DISC it needs motivated, it's observable behavior and emotion. And it's a combination of nature and nurture. But one of the big points to make here is what it's not. It's not a measure of intelligence or skills or education or experience or an indicator of values. It's about your behaviors and your preferred style. Okay, so it's not like an IQ test or anything like that. There is no right or wrong answers in relation to this. The only right or wrong answers in relation to this is getting the report and understanding it and acknowledging, okay, that's me. How can I use that to my benefit? So this is some of the things that DISC is used for, okay? So firstly, it can be used in change management to learn behaviors for transforming resistance into receptivity. Yeah, so how to communicate change to people in a way that they understand. I use it in coaching and mentoring. I insist that all of my clients do a DISC profiling. Okay, and then they see that my clients then see the value in it so much that they then do that with their teams as well, to understand more about their teams and how best to communicate with their teams, and how their teams individuals within their teams can communicate better with each other. It can also be used in conflict resolution, bring clarity and understanding to others that are disparate behavioural styles. And I realised this some time ago. Just I worked up in the city for some time, and I had a real clash with an individual that worked in my team, but understood that there was different styles and how best to communicate, because we were talking a different language. It's like one of us speaking Russian and the other one speaking Japanese. We didn't understand each other. But it was adapting that style so that we could communicate better with each other and we each understood. Okay, it can be used in customer service. Teach administrative and customer support teams how to dependably provide stellar service and interaction regardless of the behavioural style. Another great way of using it is hiring and selection. Yeah, and again, I use this for all of the, whenever I recruit anybody into my team, I always ask them to complete a DISC profile. Okay, so they understand themselves. So I understand how best to communicate with them. And also you tend to find that different behavioural styles might be better at particular jobs. And I've got a slide on this in a bit later on that will, look, there's no definitive rule here, but it's just an indication, it's a guide. Now, it can also be used in leadership and management, skill building, empowering your organisation's leaders with the ability to get the most out of their teams, sales training, okay, how to drive revenue by teaching even the most novice or experienced sales professionals how to identify and harness identical behaviours. Okay, and then we've got team building, creating, you know, the right teams, putting people in teams together that work best together. Yeah, and look, and also productivity. Yeah, how to plan meetings and projects with different behavioural styles in mind to get the best results. So before I move on, I just wanted to remind those people on the call that have been on previous webinars that I may have covered this with, or those new people that we've got on the webinar that may not have seen this. So this is what we call an action coach. Now, the 5 ways, 5 proven ways to increase your profits. Okay, and I'm going to explain in a minute why I'm just reminding everybody of this. So the 5 proven ways, 5 things to focus on. Look, most business owners know the things in white on the screen. You know, how many customers they've got, the revenues, and their profit. Okay, but they're just the results. If you look at the slide on the screen, the things in white there have got the equal sign in front of them. So the things that contribute to get those results. Firstly, number of leads. How many people inquiring about using your product or service? Your phone calls you get, your emails that you get, the people that walk into your store or your shop. That's the number of leads. Multiply that by your conversion rate. That's the number of people that you convert into customers. Okay, and that gives you your number of customers being the result. Then the third thing is number of transactions. How many times those customers come back and buy from you? And what the average pound sale is, okay, for every transaction. Now, that may vary greatly from 50,000 for a sale down to a couple of pounds from a sale, but what's the average? And that gives you your revenues. And then you multiply that by your margin, your profit margin, and it gives you your profit. Okay, now we've got a number of different strategies at Action Coach that influence each one of these things. Okay, and apply. So we look at the number of leads. How can you improve the number of leads in your business? Conversion rate. How can you improve the number of the conversion rate in your business? Okay, this is a really, really powerful tool. So if you want to find out more about this, let me know. But look, let me move on to the reason I'm sharing this with you. Okay, so we should work on conversion before lead generation. Okay, so we should work on converting customers or leads into customers before we get more leads into the business. Why do you think that might be? Type into the chat box. Why do you think that might be? Anybody got any ideas? Okay, well, look, let me share it with you. Look, the reason is that what's the point in going out and spending a lot of money on marketing to get loads of leads into your business if it's not very efficient in converting them into customers? If you've still got a low conversion rate, you're still not converting many of the leads that you're getting into the business. Okay, so one of the first things we focus on is improving your conversion rate. And the DISC profiling, or understanding the profile of your customers or your potential clients, is one way that you can improve your conversion rate. Just one of the ways, but it's a very good way of doing it. So let's delve down a little bit deeper into DISC. So I mentioned earlier that DISC has got 4 behavioural styles. Okay, and as you can see down the left-hand side of here, it spells DISC down the left-hand side. You've got dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientious. They're the 4 definitive styles. Yeah, so dominance is about how people address problems and challenges. Influence is about how you handle situations involving people and contacts. Steadiness, how people demonstrate pace and consistency. And then finally, conscientiousness, how people react to procedure and constraints. Okay, so this it's a simple, practical, easy to remember and universal applicable model. And as I say, it was based on the research of Dr. William Moulton Marston, and it's the most widely used behavioural identification tool of its kind. And it's supported by decades of research and continuous validation. Yeah, so it focuses on individual patterns of external observable behaviours and measures. Okay, the intensity of characteristics using scales of directness and openness for each of the 4 styles that I've mentioned. Okay, so so like dominance, for instance, would be how people address problems and challenges. Influence is about how people handle situations involving people. Steadiness, pace, and consistency. In conscientiousness, people react to procedure and constraints. So let's put that into a grid just to make it a little bit clearer here. Okay, so you've got sort of two axes here. Your x-axis, which is the left to right, and your y, which is the up and down. Okay, so on the left and right, the x-axis, at one end we've got task, and the other end we've got people. Yeah, and then on the y-axis, the up down, we've got at the bottom we've got reserved, and at the top we've got outgoing. So somebody that is a D profile would be more outgoing and task orientated. Somebody that is an I behavioural profile would be more people focused and outgoing. Somebody that's an S would be more people focused and reserved. And somebody that is a C would be more task orientated and reserved. Okay, but look, individuals possess a blend of all 4 styles, but they display 1 or 2 predominant behaviours. And as I said earlier, there's no ideal disc style, but each individual has a unique style. So let me explain each style in a bit more detail. Okay, so the D style, an individual who's said to be a D personality, is largely result orientated. Yeah, so he or she has the ability to accept challenges, adopt a straightforward and upright disposition, focuses on the main point of discussion, and doesn't hesitate to bluntly state opinions or decisions. Yeah, they derive motivation from successful results and victory. They often tend to focus on immediate results and working towards goals in fast-paced manner. Okay, but however, they lack patience and concern for others. Okay, they're skeptics and they fear giving out their vulnerable side to the world. Okay, they thrive on competition and victory. They bask in the attention of an audience and possess the ability to provide futuristic goals and visions to them. Okay, they're independent in approach, and they value competent, action-orientated individuals who refrain from digressing from the bottom line of the discussion. Okay, so that's a D. Okay, now an I, an individual with an I style, okay, they give importance to persuasion and influencing others, okay, and building the work environment. Their personality traits include charm and warmth and enthusiasm. Okay, they've got a trusting nature, and they're very positive and and optimistic. They tend to be disorganized and can be impulsive due to a largely collaborative approach. They emphasize action and enthusiasm and are prone to a subsequent lack of conclusion, sort of conclusive sort of process. Okay, they drive motivation from interpersonal relationships. They love relationships, and they're goaded by social activities and recognition. But they lack a candid and blunt approach, and they fear disapproval, and they fear a social absence. They like to be included. They need to focus on factual data and details of a particular idea. And they place prominence largely on popularity, prestige, and authority. Okay, so that's an I. So an S. People with it, like the S disc style, they prioritize collaboration. Okay, and sort of coalitions, and to compete the task under the given circumstances. And they thrive on stability and focus on cooperating with others, yeah, to carry out any particular task. They're motivated by, cooperative work. They love a work environment that's very cooperative, and a real sincere appreciation of their own efforts. They're quite calm, and they're quite patient, and they're very predictable individuals. They thrive on consistency and stability while being fearful of change. They don't tend to like change. They tend to be overly polite and considerate and hesitate to state opinions for fear of offending others. And they tend towards a stable environment and resist change. Okay, so now look, finally the C. Yeah, so C, they prioritize quality and precision, and they're conscientious towards work under the given work circumstances. They emphasize knowledge, quality, expertise, and growth. They're very discreet, diplomatic. Okay, and they've got a very judicious in approach, and they're sort of overly analytical approach, and they can be overcritical. They value quality and accuracy, and they fear criticism and incorrectness. Okay, so a lot of words there. So look, let's put this into a bit of context with characters that you might know. So look, if any of you are Star Wars fans or know Star Wars at all, so this is how these characters might be placed. So a C might be somebody like C-3PO. Okay, very analytical, very considerate. A D, very dominant, Darth Vader. Okay, an S would be Luke Skywalker, and an I might be Han Solo. Yeah, very friendly, very affable. Any of you a Simpsons fan? Okay, Lisa Simpson. Yeah, very studious, focused on detail. Yeah, Kent Brockman is more the D. Yeah. And then you've got Marge Simpson. She's the S, very stable. And Homer Simpson, of course, is the I. He's the outgoing one, loves fun and enjoying himself. Then if we relate that to the Toy Story, okay, so Mrs. Potato Head, yeah, look, as this quote here says, I'm packing your extra pair of shoes and your angry eyes just in case. Very focused on the detail. Got Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, he's the D. He's the very sort of dominant type of characters. S is Rex the dinosaur. What if Andy gets another dinosaur? Yeah, he's quite concerned about that. And then you've got Woody, who's obviously the I, likes being out there, likes having fun and enjoying himself. Very chatty. And look, just finally, just quickly, you've got Shrek. So you've got Lord Farquhar, he's the C. Shrek is a D, quite dominant. You've got Gingerbread Man. He's like, he's the S. Doesn't like change. And of course, you've got Donkey. Donkey's the chatty one. He's the I. Okay, so just a few characters there just to help you to relate to how to fit this in with different types of people. Now, look, as I said previously, there's no right or wrong to this. This is quite a detailed slide. Don't worry if you can't read it. But the point that I wanted to emphasize here to help you with understanding this is everybody's a gradient within here. This is a spectrum of where you might sit in relation to each of those behavioural styles. Okay, so so if you're a high high D, for instance, you're going to be at the very top here. You're going to be driving, and these are some words that describe what a high D would be. And if you were very low on the D behavioural style, then it's got other words down here like shy and meek and that type of thing. And as you can see, there's loads of words in between that would broadly explain the type of behaviour you are in relation to the D style. And it's the same with the I as well. At the top here, you'd be very big, extroverts and etc. And at the bottom here, very introverted. So there's scales here. And as I say, nothing is right or wrong. Now, as I say, remember you're a mix. Okay, there's both advantages and disadvantages to both high and low scores for each profile. Yeah, and there's great advantages of knowing your own profile. So let me share with you just some of the advantages of knowing your own profile. By increasing your self-awareness and understanding of your communication preferences, it helps you to determine how best to respond to conflict. It helps you to understand what keeps you motivated. Also, what causes you stress. And how you approach to problem solving. And it helps you to discover how you make decisions. And once you know that information, you can then understand yourself better in why you're doing certain things. Okay, it also helps you to learn how to adapt your own style to get along better with others, with the people reading process. Yeah, it helps you to develop actionable strategies to inspire team interactions. Yeah, it teaches you how to increase your leadership influence, how to develop stronger sales skills by identifying and responding to customer styles. And it helps you to manage more effectively by understanding the dispositions and priorities of employees and team members. So, in fact, when you get a DISC report, as I say, it's about sort of 60 or 70 pages long, and we're different styles under different circumstances. Okay, so and what I've got up on the screen here is just an example. So the first thing at the top there is your internal profile. This is your profile. Let's say this is your profile when no one else is looking. This is who you really are. Okay, and to give an example here, this particular profile, as you can see, or you may not be able to read it, but it says that this particular person is 37% dominant. So on that scale that I showed you, that big list of things, they're about 37% on that scale in terms of dominance. And what did that say? About 34% influence. Steadiness is, I think that says about 56%, is it? And compliance is about 89%. Okay, so they're very high up on the C level. So that's a very dominant sort of style for them. But what you notice happens, you've then got your external profile. And the external profile tends to be how you behave around others, how you think you should behave, how you should behave at work, or how you think you should behave at work. So in the example that I've put up on here, you can see that this particular style changes quite considerably in relation to their dominance. They reduce their dominance in a work environment. So it's gone down there from 37% to 23%. So they feel that they need to be less dominant in their work environment. Now, without knowing who this is and the situations and everything behind that, we can't gather anything more from that. But with that information, we can then have informed discussions as to why that might be. Okay, now the next thing is the summary profile. Okay, that's a mixture of the two. That's a mixture of your internal and external profile. And then the bit at the bottom there is actually your shift pattern. So that's you know, as you can see that I mentioned there in relation to dominance, you can see that it's got an arrow there on the left hand side pointing downwards, as that it's shifted from 37% to what's it, 23%. Okay, so we've got different styles, or we may have different styles in different environments. Now, the key thing to mention here is that actually, if we're constantly under our external profile, it may be causing us stress because it's not our natural style. Our natural style is our internal profile. And then we go to work and we behave differently. And that can cause stress on us. And this is one of the reasons that we get stress in the work environment, because people aren't always their natural selves, because they believe that they need to be something different for some reason. So it's another useful way of using this tool. Now look, there are disadvantages to knowing your your profile, and look, this is one of the key disadvantages that I generally see with people once they've gone through this process. And what it is that they tend to use it as an excuse. They tend to say, oh, I'm like that because I'm high D, that's how I am. Or I'm always talking, I'm talking all the time, that's because I'm a high I. And it's like it's an excuse. But this profiling system isn't an excuse to be a certain way. It's to help you understand, you know, your preferred behavioral styles, and to help you understand other people's preferred behavioral styles, so you can adapt appropriately to get the best results. So it's, you know, beware, if you go through this process, don't use it as an excuse to explain I'm like that because of this. So what I'm going to do now is just focus a little bit on how you might sell to different behavioral styles. Okay, now remember, everybody's a mix, so I'm going to use sort of extremes here to help a bit, to demonstrate the point. So if you are selling to a high D, yeah, they need to feel in control. They also need to see your confidence. Yeah, you've got to be confident if you're speaking to a high D. You've got to be quite dominant as well. They want you to show how you make them win, how you can make them more money, how can you give them more time. Okay, before speaking to a D, do your research, get the facts right, because if you don't, they will tell you. And respond quickly. They want things to be fast paced. They just want to know how it is. They don't want waffle. Tell me how it is. Get on with it. Move on. So be to the point. Don't waste their time. High Ds make fast decisions. So ask them for one. Okay, so that's a high D. Then we've got a high I. Okay, so if somebody was high on high I, they need to feel that there's a relationship and that they're valued. Okay, they're quite quick to see the benefits of what it is that you're offering them. Make sure that you let them speak most. Okay, they'll want to know about you, not just what you do, not just about your product or your service. They'll want to know about you. They want to build a relationship with you. And they make decisions based on how much they like you. So, you know, with a high I, keep it very simple, but build a relationship with them. Then next, we've got the high S. So the sales process with a high S might be, they need to trust you. Okay, and they need to trust what it is that you're offering them. Now, whatever the product is that you're offering or the service, it's got to be tried and tested. You need to demonstrate to them that it's tried and tested product or service and it works. Take it slow and show proof and character. Gently guide them through your sales process. Don't push them, just gently guide them through it. And look, similar to the I's, they value relationship. So be their friend. And they want to see a customer journey that's clearly mapped out. They don't want any surprises. They want to know what happens, when it's going to happen, what's going to happen next. Yeah, so make sure you map out to them, right, okay, what will happen when you accept this service, then the next thing that will happen will be this. And then what we'll do is we'll contact you with this and we'll send you this. And on this day, you'll get that. They want to know that. They don't want any surprises. Okay, so that's a high S. And then we've got high C. So look, unsurprisingly, and you've probably gathered this now, that, you know, high C wants lots of detail. They're very analytical. They want to know the pros and cons of all the different options. And they want all the evidence that supports that. So they want you to be an expert in your field. They want you to show your expertise. Provide them with case studies. Give them examples of where, where it can directly, where you've got direct evidence that relates to their circumstance. And look, guarantee to reduce the risk for them. They don't like risk. They want, if you can take away the risk from them, show them how you can do that. And they need time to think. They're not very spontaneous. They need to think through logically. They're quite tough to close. Yeah. So make sure you follow up consistently and help them decide with providing them with solid proof. Now, I said earlier that I'd give you some sort of examples of where different types of people might in different roles might be in relation to these different behavioural styles. So I've got some examples up here. So I've got solicitors, life coach, education, manufacturing, IT, interior design, architects, and retail. So let me give you an idea. You know, just have a think, but have a think about, if you're familiar with any of these roles, where you would put that particular role. And I'll just talk you through it. So let's look at, firstly, solicitors, architects, and IT. Yeah, generally they will be C's. Okay, they'll be very consistent in what they do, very compliant, very analytical. Yeah, they're precise, they're quite private, they're very systematic. And then a life coach, they're probably going to be more of an S. Yeah, they're very steady, they're even-tempered, they're accommodating, patient, humble, tactful. An interior designer, they're likely to be, I don't know, maybe an A or a D, because they're normally very extrovert. And then you've got retail. Retail's likely to be sort of probably an I or an S. Again, sort of, very people orientated. You'd expect retail to be very people orientated. And in education, you're probably maybe an S or an I. Very steady, but still, again, being in education, they've got to be a people. Yeah, they're teaching people. Okay, just to give you an idea. Now, look, as I say, these are just examples. It's not a rule. Doesn't mean that, IT can't be in they can't be a high I or something like that. It may be that they completely understand their disc profile and they've adapted it to work in that environment. Now, look, I'm sure one of the things you're thinking now is, how do I identify other people's style? So let me give you some tips in relation to how you might identify other people's style, what to look out for. Now, look, firstly, you think about where they are on this sort of spectrum on this slide. So are they extroverted? Are they introverted? Are they people orientated? Are they task orientated? Because that will then give you an idea. If they're extrovert and people orientated, well, they're an I. So that's the key thing to think about. Yeah. Have this sort of this structure in mind. Where do they sit? But let me give you some further tips. So one of the good ways of approaching this is look, as you become more familiar with the disc styles, you can find some people that are easily identifiable. As I've been talking, you may have been thinking to yourself, oh yeah, I know somebody who's an high D or high I or S or whatever. Okay, so you quickly think to yourself, oh, she's a D or he's an S. You can easily identify these people when they're primarily one star. Okay, the rest of the people that you encounter may take a little bit more practice and effort. So here's an acronym to use to help to do that. Okay, or observe, assess, and recognize. So it's a simple 3-step process that you'll learn quickly. Okay, and once you've practiced it, you'll be able to easily include identifying disc styles of others into your daily interactions. And look, have a bit of fun with it as you're going out throughout your day. People you interact with, try and work out who they, what behavioural style you think they are. Okay, and when you're on the phone, start thinking about what behavioural style they are. It may even come across in emails or texts. You may be able to, if they're very short and punchy, you might think, oh, well, they might be a D. Okay. Anyway, let's look at this in a bit more detail. So observe. The first step to identifying someone's disc style is to simply observe behaviours. What does the other person tend to talk about? Okay, so like an S, they'll prefer to focus on family and relationships. Okay. They might focus on hobbies. What if they focus on hobbies or compliments or name dropping? Do they talk a lot or do they say nothing at all? Are their emails short or long and detailed? You're looking for patterns in their behaviors. Okay, so as I say, S styles, they prefer to be family focused, but you might find that if they're talking about hobbies, they're an I, because they like hobbies, they like socializing, name dropping. That's probably a D. Yeah, they like dropping names in. Okay, do they talk a lot? Well, that's probably going to put them down as an I. Next, consider how they tend to say things. So what type of words do they use? So for example, D styles and I styles are more individualistic. Easy for you to say. Okay, so they tend to use words like I and me. Yeah, whereas the S and the C styles are a little bit more we and us. Okay, they prefer they're team players. They prefer to use plural nouns like we and us. Okay, the C styles tend to be more economical in their choice of words. Okay, whereas I styles love using superlatives. Yeah, for example, a C style might say something's good or fine. Okay, an I style, on the other hand, might be a little bit more, oh, it's amazing, it's fantastic. And also consider the type of questions that people, so for example, yeah, a D style might use, the what. They tend to use what. What's the bottom line? I's tend to ask questions like, about who, because they're quite relationship driven. Yeah, S tends to be how. They want to know how things are done, and C's want to know why things are done. Okay, and then also about using sentences. Do they tend to ask you to do something, or do they tend to tell you to do something? Listen to their tone of voice. Do they tend to talk in a loud voice or a more quiet voice? Okay, when they speak, do you hear a lot of inflection, or are they more monotone? Do they speak with confidence? Are they more emotional? Okay, also observe their body language. Their body language is highly useful in identifying disc styles. Okay, so do they use talk in their hands, or use a lot of facial expressions? Is their body language, is it still or closed? Okay, so have a think about all the signs that people might be giving you in terms of what style they are. Yeah. Then once you've done that, then it's about observing. Once you've identified patterns of behaviours, you ask yourself 2 basic assessment questions. First, determine if the person appears to be more active or reserved, or does the person tend to talk about future and how things could be? Are they more likely to talk about themselves or individuals? Is their body language more animated or assertive? Do they maintain strong eye contact? As I say, do they speak with louder voice or inflection? Yeah, on the other hand, do they talk more about present and past and how things are now? Perhaps they speak with a calm and fairly quiet voice. Is their body language more reserved or still? Okay, so have a think about assessing. Once you've observed, then it's about assessing. And then finally, it's about, oh, actually, sorry, this is about assessing again. You've identified whether they're active or reserved. You then need to determine whether they're person, they're people person or task orientated. Do they talk and ask more about things, or do they focus more on tasks than on feelings and people? Are they less emotional? Yeah, if you've identified the person as task orientated, then there'll be either D or C style. If the person's more people orientated, they're an I or an S style. And then once you've done that, it's then recognizing where they are. So as I said before, you've got the I style that talks about people, team spirit, good things, future, oneself. So you can easily put people into the right categories, because they are very outgoing and people orientated. Yeah, S, they talk about agreements, principles. They talk about the past and proofs, and they talk about one's team. So not themselves, about the team, because they're people focused and very reserved. Actually, look, have a think about it. Try reading this exercise to recognize, let's call somebody Vicky. Okay, so recognize Vicky's primary disc style. Let me describe, yeah? So Vicky is calm, a logical person. Okay, she doesn't like sudden changes. She tends to keep her opinions to herself and therefore tends not to speak up. Vicky wants clear instructions and she wants directions that she can follow. She likes to work in a team and values a supervisor who is honest and trustworthy. She's loyal and conscientious when she's treated fairly. She's able to focus on small details and repeat tasks. So any idea, based on what I've just said, any idea what style you think that Vicky might be? Type it in the chat box. Just have a go. What do we think? No, nobody prepared to have a go. Okay, well, let me tell you. I mean, look. Firstly, we know that she tends to be a people person. She likes working in a team. She's honest and trustworthy, conscientious, also likes detail. Yeah. Tends to keep her opinions to herself. Okay, so this leads us to believe that anyway, that Vicky would be more of an S style. Yeah. If she was D, for instance, she'd be very goal orientated. She'd be talking about herself, very strong values and telling people about those strong values, very results and loves change. So look, hopefully I've given you an idea there in terms of how you can use the DISC profiling system to communicate better with others. Okay. So, you'll discover that observing behaviors becomes second nature, and you'll soon be doing it without even thinking. So the skill is part science, part art, but mostly practice. Okay, and the bottom line is that using DISC helps you communicate better with others in whatever environment you're in. Okay, so has anybody got before I move on, has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask? Type them in the question box, as if anybody's got any questions. So I had one that came in earlier that I'll just answer whilst you're thinking about questions. So one that came in earlier was, what disc profile am I? Okay, so if you haven't guessed it by now through what I've been through, I'm a mix between S and I. Is my preferred disc profile. Be interested to know how many of you actually realised or had me down as an S or I. Okay. So we've got a question there from Helen. Does it depend how you're feeling on the day when you do a disc? Yeah, look, absolutely. You can be affected on what's going on around you. So it's quite useful to do these every so often. You know, maybe every year, but certainly if you've had a big change in your life. Unfortunately, if somebody's passed away that was close to you, it might affect, or it probably will affect how you can, the results that you give, or if you're feeling particularly negative that day or something, it can affect it. Disc is designed to try and weed that out, but it will have an impact. It should still show your preferred behavioural styles, but it may not be quite as accurate. Yeah, so good, look, great question. It does depend on how you're feeling, but it should still give you a very good indication. Can children do it? Look, children can do it, but some of the questions in there, some of the words that are using in there, so it probably isn't appropriate for young children because they probably won't understand the question that's being asked of them because of the language that's being used. But older children, definitely. And I think it's a very good thing for them to do as well. Okay, no, thank you for those questions. So we've got another one in here, which is where do I get a disc profile from? Okay, so look, if anybody, look, there's plenty of sources out there, but look, as I say, I do disc profiling. So if anybody on this call would like a disc profile, please let me know. My contact details will come up in a moment. But look, just let me know. There is a charge for them. Look, I normally charge £75, but look, anybody on this call, if you want to do one, I'll be happy to do it for £60. Okay, and as I say, you get a report on about 60-70 page report. And look, by the way, this is I have to purchase them, by the way, so it's that's me passing on the cost, if you see what I mean. Okay, so look, so let me know if you'd like to go through any of those. But look, what's coming up, just to let you know. So actually tomorrow I'm doing a webinar with the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. So I'm doing a webinar on tips for successful networking and mistakes to avoid, because look, we're going back to face-to-face networking now. So we're probably a bit out of touch with all of that. So I'm going to share some tips that you can use. Look, if you'd like to register for that, go to my website, hastings.actioncoach.co.uk events, and it will direct you to how you can register for that event with Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. I've got 6 steps to a successful business webinar coming up. And this is for business. It's a business building seminar. Okay, it's on the 3rd of November, and you'll learn strategies and marketing concepts. It's complimentary. Come along and join. 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. to register for that. Okay, and the 6-step method teaches you how to maximize the value of your business. Okay, from improving your lead generation to increasing your average pound sale, things that I mentioned on that on the 5 ways earlier. And look, my next Wednesday webinar is on Wednesday the 10th of November, and it's about knowing where you're going. Yeah, so if you imagine that you were planning a trip to go somewhere you've never been before, somewhere that you really want to go because it's a great place to be. You wouldn't set off without checking a map or looking at your sat nav. So how would you expect to do that with your business? How do you expect to get somewhere that you really want to be without setting your goals and your plan first? So again, if you'd like to find out more about that, join that webinar. And look, as I say before, if you'd like a complimentary coaching session, go onto my website, hastings.actioncoach.co.uk, book a meeting and just book in a complimentary coaching session with me. We can delve down a bit more detail about you and your business. So, okay, look, I don't think there's any more questions that have come in. So, look, thanks everyone for joining. Now it's time to get into action, put into practice what you've learned today. Thanks, everyone.